coming soon, and today I'd like to show you a range of wooden shamanic altarpieces from across Nepal, from many of the different tribal groups. And there's a whole variety of things here, from the Mugger to the Tamang and the Rai, the Sherpa peoples. So I'll introduce you to different objects, and then I'll show you some of the connections between things. So this is probably Tamang, because you can see this this device. This is sort of a little bit like a lotus, and the Tamang are very largely Buddhists, and the priests often wear this sort of pattern in their headdresses. So you can see this is an oil lamp. So you've a little metal dish here for the oil, and then you've got the shamanic figure in prayer, but with a crown of flames connected to sort of the energy body and enlightenment. So very, very interesting figure. And then with that sort of radiant mandora shape, you've also have the fire reflected. So this would be in a house probably without any electricity, very simply carved at the back and hollowed out so that it can stand on a sort of uneven surface. Very, very nice, and actually quite a rare object. It's something you wouldn't find very often. Quite often on the shrines you'll have a large figure, usually larger than this, of the shamanic guru or of Banjakri. Banjakri is he's the natural aspect of Shiva. So he's the left arm of Shiva, given to the shaman to train them. So there's all sorts of incredible stories about Banjakri, who's sometimes depicted as this little hairy guy who can change shape. So sometimes he's enormous and sometimes very small, and often abducting young children to train them. And then there's a sort of time warps where he's very kind to the children and protects them from his witch wife, and teaches them all sorts of magical shamanic mantra and techniques. And then it's like they're gone for years, but then when they return to their everyday life, return to their family, it's like they've been missing for a day or two or three. And over my time in Nepal, I've come across many of these incredible stories with shaman claiming to have been abducted and to have learned various techniques. So this is a Mugger shaman piece. The shaman playing his drum with the headdress, all the bells all over the back of his costume. The costumes are often like a sort of magical armour, also protecting the shaman. And it's got the penis and testicles out, and the Mugger quite often have like an emphasis on male and female energy, on the sexual element within their shamanic practice, or almost like a tantric practice. So this is also a Mugger piece, where again an altar piece from a shrine. So you've got a male and a female figure, but you can see she's in prayer, and then it's they're in the middle of the sexual act, but she's still in this sort of transformed process. So this is about the circulation of energy. It's about the completion of male and female energy, and you quite often get that same sort of symbolism. So here you've got a female figure with a baby, with the vagina open, and the male figure praying, and they're back to back as a pair with the erect penis. And that's also a shamanic altarpiece. Another example. This is from I think from the Tamang. So you've got something quite similar here, where you see that divide, except you've got no figure on the back. So you've got the stylistic division of the two figures, but now in one. and you've got the female shaman with the baby, and she's sitting in the lotus posture. And then it's quite normal to have meditating figures. So some people say that the shamanism isn't connected to the other spiritual practices like yoga and meditation, and that's not at all what I found. That's absolutely integrated in certainly in Nepal and in the Tibetan traditions, and into parts of India and also in Indonesia. I found that basically the shamanism came before all these other traditions and have absolutely integrated all of them. And my own experience is that you use whatever you've got as well. You have your own practices. So I also trained as a Tai Chi and Qigong teacher, and that gave me an awareness of my inner body energy, an awareness of the chakras, awareness of the intelligence in the internal organs. And when you're in a shamanic healing or a shamanic process, you call on whatever you have at hand. You call on all the tools that you've got, all your different types of awareness. And so you see this figure. This is also probably Tamang or Sherpa. One of the ways I know that is you've got this pattern here, which is like the headdresses that they wear. So the Tamang and Sherpa are usually Buddhist. They're originally tribal peoples from Tibet, and they're Lamaist as well as shamanic. So the shamanism and Buddhism are very, very linked and joined together. Another praying figure in a half lotus, you see with the remains of Peacock, where it's been given various offerings. Probably also from the Tamang. So then this is a mugger piece. The mugger are very, very interesting. They have these temples they call tam, with 4 openings, and in their symbolism and iconography you get a lot of 4s of shaman, sometimes like this facing outwards and sometimes facing inwards. I have a wonderful group of 4 big bronzes, which I'll show in another video. But you can see these are all staring outwards into the 4 different directions. And the shaman will sometimes, they orientate themselves as if they're at the centre of a sort of cosmic universe. So quite often when they're doing their rituals, they send out energy messages into the land and into the environment. And one of the things I found is that you often have like a cosmic, symbolic landscape, both in terms of the hills and mountains and special trees and special rocks, but also in terms of the temples that they put into an area. So when I was travelling in Sindhupaljuk, for instance, a lot of the areas have rings of 9 Kali temples or 9 Durga temples around the sort of perimeter of the village, over quite a large area, over maybe 3 or 4 miles. There'll be these small shrines, and the shaman in their ritual process or when they're doing their mantra will send out their energy down these energy lines to these temples, or down the energy lines into the special trees or special rocks. And they're checking to see if everything is okay. Like a spider in a web, checking, feeling feeling the vibrations, and then according to the energy that comes back, they then have to increase something, re-energize something, or make amends, apologize for some deficit or some wrongdoing. So a lot of the time the shaman are plugged into this sort of wider etheric body of the earth and the wider environment and the communities that they're in. And so that's some of the meaning of this sort of symbolism, where you've got them looking out into the different directions. Then this is a very interesting and strange figure. And I wonder if this is you sometimes get these energy postures. One of the things I've noticed is missing from the general information you see on things like ayahuasca is a lot of these traditions actually have they have specific postures that they're holding when they've taken a psychoactive substance, and that affects the way that you're compressing the liver perhaps, or you're pumping energy into the diaphragm or into the stomach. And this sort of squat may just be a squat, but it may be something else altogether. I'd have to ask. So you've got a very pronounced navel and penis again, this squat with the big pronounced buttocks, and on the back Kali or Durga, and then on the head the trident or trishul of Shiva. Very, very interesting, and some sort of amulets or bracelets on the wrists. I don't know what tradition that is. I've not come across anything quite like that before. This is an extraordinary figure. It probably is from a shamanic tradition, partly because it's so odd. It came out of a fallen down house in the earthquakes, and was gifted to me as part of as a sort of a thank you for a lot of the earthquake relief that I did. So it was given from a family that I'd helped, and it's very ancient. It's got two intertwined naga coming up the back. This is probably a naga figure, like a snake god, although it could still be a figure of Banjakri or of a shaman. Immensely long hair, the hands with 5-sided stars in the palm. So there are energy practices you can do where the palms become like eyes, and also the fingertips become like eyes, so you can send your energy through the hands, through the fingers, and that's also connected very much to the mudras. The mudras link to the energy channels in the body, but they're also they're ways of focusing the energy. Sometimes I find myself involuntarily going into certain mudras, particularly when I'm handling things like the Ferber, and the shaman will have a whole array of mudras that go with different mantra practice and different Ferber, for instance. I found myself going into this pose repeatedly for about a year, and if you do this with when you have the energy like that, the hand like that, it pulls the energy into the hands and then goes down the fingers. If you bring this in, it sends it even more down the fingers, almost like a sort of sword. So it's very interesting as you build up a sort of an energy practice. You end up with a very different awareness of the energy in the body and the way that relates to the outer world. So this is an interesting figure, and you can see it's got the remains of various garlands from different rituals. So this is a shaman figure riding on a great big tiger, and I've come across shaman that literally did meditate with tigers, where the tigers came and watched them while they're meditating. I was once up in the mountains with a group of shaman, and suddenly Dawa Sherpa grabbed my arm and dragged me up through these bushes up this steep rocky outcrop and up onto this platform of rock, and there was sort of jungle all around, and he excitedly cleared away some undergrowth, and there was a rock there that was shaped very much like a big tiger's head, and he said, "You see the tiger's head," and he told me how he had meditated there for many months, and how a female tiger would come out, and he pointed across and he said, "There's a cave over there where the tiger lives," and many times she came very close and watched him, but she never harmed him. And so there's this tremendous deep connection with nature. And Dawa was very interesting when the earthquakes came, because he had just built this wonderful big stone house, and the whole house was completely falling down, and he seemed absolutely undisturbed by it. And I asked about that because some of the other shaman were crying and drinking and upset, and Dawa wasn't at all upset, and they said Dawa doesn't care. Dawa's not attached to any of this. He could just go off and live in nature. He'll just build it again. So it was really interesting to see his response. So this is, I don't know if you can see it, I'll lift it up. This is probably Sherpa or Tamang, and the arch is like an entrance into an altered space, into another world. Originally I thought this might have been a window, but I don't think so. I think it was part of another larger piece, because there's fittings here, but it's not a window frame. And so you've got the praying figure here holding a vessel of some sort. These are probably Naga, the suns and moons, more praying shaman figures, all in their meditation poses. Different mudras here, like teaching mudra, hand gestures. I don't know what this is in the hands. They're really very beautiful, and you see all in the lotus posture, and then with this Buddhist symbol with the flame and the sun above. So when you go into the shaman houses, they always have altar rooms and altar spaces with a lot of these objects and a lot of other objects, a lot of metal objects and furbers and knives and spears and lances and arrowheads and flowers, feathers, and then their costumes often away in boxes, and then oil lamps and other things. And then also representations of other gods that they regularly call on. So Bhairav, who's the fierce aspect of Shiva, that they call as a sheet of flame at their back when they're dealing with the Masham, the powerful ghosts and spirits. And then we've got figures like this, which is very interesting. I've never come across anything quite like this. I'm not sure which tradition it's from. I'm guessing maybe Mugger, but I'm not quite sure. So you've got the Naga coming all the way around, the snake god. It's a snake god. The female figure on the back. And this sort of feeling like journeying. The reason I think Mugger is that their shamanic stalls quite often have snakes or Naga gods on either side, like a type of journey into the underworld. So that would sort of, the iconography is similar. So again, you've got the male figure and the female, and the snakes all wrapped around. Like quite an extraordinary thing, very sculptural object. And then here's a Hanuman with his vase. That would with owls, probably for flowers or incense. And he's in that position of supplication and ready to act. So Hanuman is always thought of as being incredibly modest and helpful. So he's ready to come with all his strength, or his sort of innocent supportiveness to help the shaman in their activity. Then, what's that? Here we have a pair of shaman in a sort of sexual embrace, again with the baby, the vagina, his testicles showing at the back here. So again, the pairing of the male and female figures, like a sort of circulation of energy. And then we have this bird. So this one's a peacock, and the peacocks are often paired with tigers, representing dawn and dusk, and also representing the rainbow because of the feathers. And the shaman quite often have the peacock feathers as a headdress, and sometimes they have this idea of wearing something from head to foot, and so they'll have the feathers as the headdress, but they might have the feet attached to some other object, maybe to a fur burr or stitched onto their costume. And then finally, these are Mugger shaman, and they represent Garuda, although I suspect that one might represent the three-eyed crow, because it's got the third eye here. So it's like a bird beak in the same shape as a hornbill. So they also use hornbill skulls for travelling with, for doing sort of flying, for moving into the upper worlds. So you see we've got the eyes and the long beak and various decorations here. And these are, you get them on the shrines. This one's like the biggest one I've ever had as well. Very sculptural, with these eyes, a third eye on the forehead. And used for travelling, used for journeying from one world to another. And sometimes also used for protection from the Nagas. So you have both the Nagas also being worshipped and seen in a very sort of positive way, and the Garudas also, which are often seen as the enemy of the Nagas, also being used for journeying into the upper worlds and into the lower worlds. So, and then there's other sort of symbolism like this, where you've got the yak related to the journeys with their animals, but here you've got these shamanic figures on the sides, both with one with a bird and its penis out, and with some sort of object across the lap. Very, very interesting figures, and in a similar sort of similar style to that, with the Kali on the back and the trident. So you can see there's a whole range of wooden altarpieces, and there's a lot more objects as well, but these are used like vehicles for transforming your awareness. So they're both objects of prayer and objects of devotion, so they give them offerings and blessings and flowers and incense and milk and cakes and so on. So they'll be giving these gifts to them, but they're also like gateways and portals into these other dimensions, like reminders, but also objects of transformation themselves. So one good way of thinking about these sorts of objects are that they're not only sort of artistic and creative, but they're vehicles for consciousness. They're actively, it's like a sort of technology of consciousness. So they have a type of symbolism, but they also have a purpose for sending awareness into these other realms. So I hope you found that interesting. Do subscribe, press the bell button if you want to be notified for new videos. I'm making a whole series of videos at the moment about shamanic objects and ritual objects across Himalayan shamanism. So, and also some about other Buddhist and Hindu ritual objects. So do subscribe, leave feedback, and let me know what you'd like to hear about. Thank you, and see you at the next one.